So Bitcoin broke above that 79.5 that we had drawn in the other day, as that was the resistance line that we had drawn in. It did break above it and it's moved on up. Let's take a look to see what it did for MSTY, Mr. And then let's just go ahead and take a look at CONY, ULTY, SMCY, and HOOY. And I want to see at what point that I can start buying some more shares. Hello, my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at some charts, and I first want to start off with Bitcoin right here, and then we're going to move right into MSTY. So on Bitcoin, it did break above that 79.5, and that was that resistance line that we had drawn in right here, as it did tap it twice, got rejected, and then started moving back up and actually broke past it on May the 3rd. And then May the 4th, it actually did close above the 79.5. Now today, we did move on up, got as high as about 81.7. It is showing a little bit of a red candle because it is dropping just slightly below yesterday's close, okay? And that's the reason why it is red. But overall, it is still moving up, right? So we do see a bit of a trend here moving up. But can we keep it going? I sure hope so. If we can stay above this 79.5, or at least use that as a support line now, then I think we might be on our way back up to at least start testing some of these higher resistance lines. So of course, with this move up, even though it is, like I said, a red candle, it is still moving up. Let's take a look to see what it did for our MSTY. And here we are on MSTY. And as you can see, we do also have a red candle for the day. Let me zoom in here, as it did drop down from the open of today, but the close is still higher than yesterday's close. So we are moving up, but it did have a bit of a pullback from the opening of today, as it opened at 27.77 and ended up closing at 27.40. So not much of a pullback, but it did have a slight pullback. We'll see if it can continue on moving up, and that is all going to be determined by Mr. And let's take a look at that one. And here we are on MSTR, or strategy. As you can see, it too is moving up. So we are getting some higher highs and higher lows. So I love to see that. It did cool off like the others did today, but we did break above that 180, okay? So if we can stay above 180, I'm hoping to see Mr. moving on up, which will, of course, push our MSTY back up as well. And that would be a great thing to see. So before we get into CONY and the others, if you don't mind, hit that like button, as it would be much appreciated. So now we're going to take a look at CONY, ULTY, SMCY, and HOOY. And the reason I'm looking at those is because those were the ones that were red the last time we looked at my high yield stock tracker sheet. And let's take a glance at it just to see where it's currently at. And here we are. Now this is the numbers from the close of today, Tuesday. And as you can see, ULTY, we are still green on ULTY. Love it, right? My real price per share is $31.43, and that market price is $31.95. So I am under it, so that's a great thing. I'll stay green as long as that market price can stay above my real price per share. But the ones that are still red are CONY, SMCY, and if we scroll on over, you can see HOOY. And the rest of them are green. So those three right there are mainly the ones that I need to look at to see if I can purchase some shares. Or at least, what am I looking for in order to make those purchases? So let's go back to the chart and let me show you what I'm looking for. All right, so here we are back on the chart, and we're looking at CONY right now. And as you can see, it too is moving up, even though we did have a pretty strong pullback today. It ended up closing below yesterday's open. So it might be coming back down a little bit, but that could give me an opportunity to purchase some shares of CONY. But what am I looking for those purchases? Well, I would love to see it get back down to this 25. That would be great for a purchase. But the signal that I'm really going to be looking for is this RSI2 right here. And that's this yellow line at the bottom. And as you can see right here, when it dropped below 10, that would have been a pretty good time to buy, as that would have got me a closing price of about 25.99. Even though it was lower the next day, that RSI2 for that day before would have still gave me a pretty good buy. But I don't necessarily just want to buy whenever. I want to make sure that RSI2 drops below 10 and that closing price or that buy price of whatever I am purchasing is under my real price per share. So at $25.99, if I look back on my sheet, you can see for CONY, $25.99 is definitely below my real price per share. So that would definitely help to lower that real price per share by buying those shares at $25.99. It would even help me just buying them at that market price of $27.38, right? But I still want to wait until that RSI2 drops below 10, and then I may end up picking up a few shares of CONY. And that's the indicator that I'm going to basically use for all three of these, for CONY, SMCY, and HOOY. So if we take a look at SMCY, let's just look to see if it is below that 10 on the RSI2. And here we are on SMCY, and as you can see, it actually is moving up. That RSI2, which is this yellow line at the bottom, it's actually sitting at 67.21. So that is not below 10. 10 is way down here. And it actually has not dropped below 10 in a little while. But I'll be patient, and if it does drop below 10, I might pick up a few shares of SMCY, as long as that price is under my real price per share. Because if I buy it above my real price per share, it will raise that real price per share, and that is not what I want to do. I always want to lower that real price per share, as that is what helps me to get closer and closer to getting it paid off. And before we take a look at HOOY, let's just glance at ULTY. And here we are on ULTY. Now, ULTY has been moving up, and it is currently above my real price per share, so I would not want to purchase shares at that price. Now, had I bought some shares right here when it did drop below 10 on the RSI2, right there, it's sitting at 4.85, and that closing price of that candle would have been about 30.71. And if we look at my spreadsheet, 30.71 would have been below that real price per share. So that would have actually helped me lower this number and actually give me even more downside protection. And let me show you what I mean right here, because at 31.43 being my current real price per share, if I would have purchased those shares at 30.71, what would that have made this real price per share? And I can easily do that with my little drop down chart right here. And don't forget, if you would like to get a copy of this sheet, come on over, join the Discord. The link will be in the pinned comments and in the descriptions below, where you can get a copy of this one, track your own high yield ETFs, and find out where your real price per share is. But just to find out what that real price per share would be for ULTY, I can click this, click the one that I want to look at, and it's ULTY. We'll delete those numbers and enter in that buy price of, say, 30.71. And if I purchased 10 shares, that would be about $300 worth, and that would actually lower that real price per share to $31.32. So it would take that $31.43 down to $31.32. Now, that's not much. If I wanted to actually get a lower real price per share, then I could up the number of shares and say I double that to 20, and that takes it down to $31.24. and that would be $600 to buy those 20 shares. And that would help me to lower that real price per share. And then if the current market price of ULTY does drop, it would have to drop all the way down below 31.24 before this one would actually flip to red, okay? And that's what my goal is to continue lowering that real price per share and to make my purchases work for me so that it only helps to lower that real price per share to help to increase that gap between that real price per share and the market price, so that if it does come down, I have more room between my price and that market price before it flips it to red. But I did not purchase these shares, so this is just an example of what it would actually have been had I caught that drop on that RSI2 for ULTY. Just wanted to show you the example and how to use that real price per share calculator right there. So back to the charts, we're looking at HOOY right now. And as you can see, HOOY too is moving up. The best time to have buy, it looks like it was going to be that 429 on just about all of these that I've looked at so far. And that would have been a pretty good buy, right? Because I could have purchased them at that price on 429 and also receive a distribution for those additional shares because the X date is 4/30. Okay, so I would have actually received distribution for those shares that I just purchased, and then the price was actually moving up. And that is the best of both worlds, right? Get your distribution and the price moves up. That's great. And that's what we want to see. But for a purchase of shares for HOOY, currently for me, well, that RSI2 here is actually all the way up to 69.04. So I'm going to hold off and wait to see if it does pull back and drops below that 10 once again. But it looks like I missed out a few opportunities to get some shares of some of these, as it did drop below 10 a few days ago, but I did miss it. So I wanted to give you the idea of where I'm looking to actually buy some shares in, and that was for CONY, SMCY, and HOOY. All three of those are red on my sheet, as you can see right here, and that means that if I do buy shares under that real price per share, it will only help to lower that real price per share and get me a little closer to that market price. And that's the same that goes for SMCY and HOOY right here. But it looks like I have gained a little bit more. I'm up to 21,000 now. If I were to sell out of all of these ETFs at that current market price, I would gain and clear $21,000. But I'm not selling. I am looking to get these things paid off so that all of those distributions that would come in would just be free and clear money coming in, and I would have none of my money invested, as it would have all been paid back through the distributions. But the one that's going to actually tell it all here is Bitcoin. That's the one we really need for it to stay above this 79.5 and keep moving up. And if I zoom back, you can see right there's the current candle. And the next one we have is 84.2, as that was a support line back here, as it did tap it quite a few times right through here, okay? That's where it did come down, hit that support line, and bounced off of it. Now, that same line will become a resistance line. So as the candles come up, if they do come up to this 84.2, it is going to meet some resistance. Now, how strong is that resistance? Only time will tell, and we hope that it can break right on through and then use this 84.2 as a support line. Now that is what we want to see. We want to first make sure that it can stay above 79.5 and use it as support, and then we can start breaking through the other resistance lines and start moving this thing back on up. And when it does, that means MSTR is going to move up. And when the MSTR moves up, you know what MSTY is going to do. That's right, it's going to move on up too. Would love to see it and cannot wait. We just need Bitcoin to continue moving up. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button, as it would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.